February's been on fire with new releases, and the fun is actually far from over. In just a few days, we're gonna get to see some of the biggest and most hyped games of the year, dropping on both Android and iOS, but while we wait, here's some of the most realistic games released just this month. First things first, and this was released just days ago, if you're into Norse mythology, specifically itching for a good MMORPG, Legend of Ymir is probably right up your alley. It's all about the Ragnarok, the end of the world event that comes every 9,000 years apparently, so, you know, no big deal. The vibe is sick, and the game's art really nails those raw emotions tied to the Norse legends. You've got 4 classes to choose from, each with different weapons and combat styles, but the kicker is that it's actually using blockchain technology. You can play it on both PC and mobile, and the combat switches between automatic and manual, so you've got flexibility. It's online though, roughly 8 GB on mobile. Moving on to number 2, we've got once again Delta Force, which just dropped its free-to-play co-op campaign Black Hawk Down, and it's definitely one to check out. This game's campaign set in Somalia, and this time brings an even more intense battle based off events of the 1993 battle with Unreal Engine 5. You'll get 7 chapters to fight through, and the campaign draws heavily from the iconic 2001 film with the same name, and even earlier Delta Force games, but this time around, it's a full-on team effort. You'll need to cooperate with your squad, and it's all about teamwork, strategy, and precision. This game is available now on mobiles, PC, but it's coming to consoles soon. Crystal of Atlan just hit a global test, which is live until March 5th, available now on mobiles and PC. In selected regions, if you're in Canada, Germany, Brazil, or even the UK, you can jump in on either the PC or even the Play Store. This game itself is a MMO action RPG where you've got this cool mix of magic and technology. You get to pick from 4 classes as well: Swordman, Musketeer, Puppeteer, Magister. In fact, these developers have been improving the combat effects, controls, and even streamlined the download process, so it's looking pretty polished. If you're into games where you can explore ancient ruins and go into it with factions like the Megatech Institute, this might be one to watch at least. Do Ignite Abyss, though, feels like one of those games that's just got everything going on in the best way possible. It's magic meeting machinery, the battles are fast, it's quite realistic. The dual protagonist nature of this game, especially in the story, is such a cool touch. It's like getting the 2 different tales for the price of one game. And don't even get me started on the gameplay system. It's got fixed attributes for gears, which I mean basically is less grind and more strategy, plus you've got pets, weapons, customizations, and co-op modes to keep things fresh. Beta signs up are live now, which sounds like the perfect chance to get in on the action early. Why not? Coming up behind that at number 5, we've got Liar's Bar. Definitely one of those games that's impossible to ignore, for better or worse. The game is edgy, it's pretty dark, and kind of twisted. I mean, if you're the type of guy who likes their gaming experience to be unapologetically gritty, this one will probably catch your eye. You're thrown into a world where bluffing and high-stakes games reign supreme, and it's all about survival. It's basically a pretty bizarre, grotesque take on the game Russian roulette mixed with deception, card games. I mean, just imagine Russian roulette, but you're playing cards with your life on the line. It's a good game, well translated to mobile, it's free, roughly 1 GB in size. Moving on to number 6, we have Kamla. This is a nightmare of a game set in the 80s India. You step into the shoes of this priest, tantric priest, on a desperate mission to save this woman who's possessed, which is a newly wed woman whose soul has been hijacked by a deadly demon. Now, not only you have to solve puzzles on the journey, it's about surviving long enough to gather items, sacred items that's needed for an exorcism that could mean life or death for you and her. The game's atmosphere is quite thick and dark with dread, and every moment is crucial and intense. If you want to test your courage like never before, maybe give it a shot. With that being said, at number 7, we've got Croft Incorporation, the company known for working on games like PUBG and the Callisto Protocol, a console game, which released Dark and Darker Mobile finally, and is sitting there on stores ranked as the #1 role-playing game of the year. Now you should know, like the original Dark and Darker, the mobile version here features elements of dungeon crawling, online and offline play, survival mechanics, and a class system and some super graphics as well. Dark and Darker is set in a medieval backdrop with the goal being to gather loot and extract successfully before getting killed. It's pretty legitimate, it's free, 2 GB in size, definitely worth giving a shot. If you've been longing for that mech warrior vibe, Explorer here is finally giving us the heavy metal mech action we've been missing on iOS exclusively. This is coming from the same team behind Interloper, it's a pretty famous game. The Explorer here puts you right in the cockpit of your own mech for some legitimately intense one-on-one battles and first person. There's no overhead strategy here, just pure immersive metal clashing, and it's no downgraded to mobile, no nothing. It's a base game. If there is just one problem, is that it's not available on Android yet, but the potential this game has might actually make it someday on Android as well. Give it a shot.
Dear Diary.
With that being said, I Am Your Beast is one of those games that hooks you right from the start. Specifically, if you love action and a solid revenge story. So in this game, you play as a secret agent who had enough of his whole one last job thing, and after saying no to too many of them, you find yourself in a full-blown guerrilla war with the military-industrial complex. Yeah, it's that intense, as it sounds. But what really makes this game stand out is how it plays, not to mention the super slick comic style, plus the whole campaign is fully voiced as well. Moving on to number 10, we've got I Am Cat, which puts you in the paws of a cat, letting you explore the world from a feline perspective, which, doesn't that sound fun? It mostly is. The game's got plenty of charm with its concept and playful vibe, but the controls might drive you a little bit crazy because you're supposed to move like a cat, but the realism can make it pretty tricky, especially if you don't have the space to wave your arms around. Anyway, once you get the hang of things here, there's loads to enjoy, like unlocking new levels without having to buy them. It's pretty cute, quirky, and definitely worth giving a try if you can deal with a few control quirks. I've asked this question before, but does any of you here remember Songs of Conquest, which is this strategy game that caught our attention just months ago? It's finally made its way to mobile, and the wait is pretty much over. After a solid run on PC, it's set to hit iOS and Android in just 2 weeks, and if you're as hyped as I am, you can even go and pre-order it right now. This one really channels the 90s strategy vibes, and if you're a fan of the turn-based combat, it just hits all the right notes. The game promises a deep tactical experience with a mix of magic, strategy, and army customization, and there's a lot to dig in. It'll cost you $12, definitely inspired by Heroes of Might and Magic. Coming up behind that at number 12, we've got Frag Pro Shooter, basically one of the slickest in look, yet one of the oldest PvP shooters ever designed specifically for mobile. Well, Frag Pro Shooter, pretty sure, I mean the game is downloaded over 100 million times. It's got an arcade style vibe where you pick a team of heroes, head into the arena, and battle it out with other players worldwide. And whether you're into first person or third person, Frag's definitely got you covered. What I'd like here personally is that there's over 150 heroes to mix and match, each with their own unique weapon, so you can switch between characters even mid-battle, and it's not just one-on-one anymore, there's a 2v2 and even an offline play as well.
This is not a natural storm that will pass.
Fun Plus is bringing it worldwide on March 14, and pre-registrations is already live on Android and iOS and PC for DC Dark Legion. See, here's the thing, if you're a fan of the series' heroes and villains, Dark Legion nails the character design so far, and from what we've seen, it blends the classic DC feel with strategic base building. If you're into that kind of mix, you will probably have a blast. And get this, there are pre-registration rewards based on how many people sign up. So if you're into DC or strategy games, it might be worth checking out and grabbing those rewards before launch day. Plus, it's free to play with in-app purchases, so why not give it a shot? Anyway, if you're into strategy RPGs and you've been curious about blockchain in games, you gotta check this one out as well. Red Covenant is set in this dark, immersive world, and it mixes tactical combat with the idea that what you earn actually has value. So every battle, every character you recruit, it all adds up. So what's really interesting is how they're integrating NFTs in their in-game currency. Besides, the waifu collection mechanic is bound to catch people's attention here. So there's a good mix of ownership over assets, some deep strategy, and a solid story, and some good visuals. Red Covenant here feels like it's aiming to shake things up for mobile RPGs, and is already hitting high. Game of Thrones Kingsroad dropped another new trailer, and it's looking pretty epic. Seriously, if you're a fan of Game of Thrones or just love intense multiplayer action, this one might be worth checking out. I've already mentioned the game before around. The story takes on a brand new journey in Westeros, which sounds like a solid mix of action and lore. It's got that classic Game of Thrones potential intrigue vibe, but now with full-on character customization and a fresh storyline. There's a lot of potential here. I'm excited to see how it all unfolds, and this is how the game actually looks. To all my dear quality mobile gamers, even though we've mentioned the game more than once on the channel, Eternights is once again probably the perfect blend of action, romance, and mayhem, and pretty much everything else in a video game. Basically, the mix of hack and slash and dating sim and RPG elements make it a pretty great choice for anybody who likes a video game with any taste of any age. There is a ton of stylish combo, and not only that, between the battles you get to be forming bonds, there's some emotional going on, dates, and the stakes are pretty much high on both ends for love and survival. Eternights here really balances that all in the best way possible. One of my favorite games so far, which I've mentioned before, has to be the Suicide Guy here, and don't even let the name fool you, because it's just a wild ride through a bunch of worlds that the protagonist seems to be dreaming. So it's not a dark and grim and sad story about real life struggles and stuff. It's just pure mayhem. You play as this guy who's trapped in his own dreams, and your job is to figure out how to wake up or how to wake him up. It's just packed with bizarre puzzles, quite smart physics, and some really weird stuff as well. It's not free though, plays offline, and overall it's about being original and a big imagination. On the other hand, at number 18, we've got ultra-realistic Siege Simulator, or extremely realistic Siege Simulator, which pretty much brings the thrill of large-scale battles right into your mobile device, kind of like the Northgard game. In fact, this one stands with its physics-based combat where you command archers and cavalry, all while devising the best strategy. You're going to be needed to craft and use siege equipment like catapults, and the coolest part is the game lets you slow down time for tactical decisions. So pretty much it's a grand battlefield experience that keeps you coming back for more every time. Plus, the soldiers are really cute despite the combat. If you're craving some good old slopes, but when you want to stay home at the same time and stay cozy, Ground Mountain Adventure 2 might just be the perfect escape for you. Now available on Android and iOS for free, it is also ranked as the #1 sport game of the month since a week ago. And for those of you looking for some adrenaline, there's plenty: ski jumps here, downhill racing, and even paragliding. You can even try ziplining or show off stunts and combos, alone or with friends. The game has some pretty realistic graphics, it offers weather hazards. Honestly, this one truly captures the magic of the mountains itself. Moving on to number 20, we've got Tribe 9, which has been available, it's been around since 3 days now, and it's getting better by the day. It's legitimately fire. It's an action RPG set in the dystopian world of New Tokyo, with a life or death twist, and this Dragon Rampa-esque visuals, which is one of my favorite things about it. The combat is in a third-person style, and there's a deep narrative here. The game though has a linear pace with optional minigames and requests to give it a little bit of a freedom and get it out of the linear pace. No need for such formality. This game is about 1.5 gigabytes. It's free to play with in-app purchases and it's available on both stores. Give it a shot if you like what you see here. Lara Croft is back as well, and this time she's bringing her dungeon exploring, trap dodging, and undead fighting antics to mobile. Guardian of Light isn't your typical Tomb Raider, obviously. This one's an asymmetric action platformer which is packed with puzzles and all sorts of dangers that Lara, as always, completely ignores as if it's just whatever. You're gonna be against Xolotl, which is the god of death, but don't worry, the touchscreen controls are fully customizable, and if that is not your thing, gamepad support has you covered here in the game as well. This is a premium purchase at $10 if you're into fast-paced platformings and some clever puzzles. Maybe give it a shot as well. Moving on to number 22, we've got Shogun's Curse, which has you taking on the role of a cursed warrior on a path of revenge. And it's not just a straight line, you're making all the decisions here. This one's a card RPG with a twist. You collect relics and cards, but there's a catch. You can either use those relics to power up or sacrifice them when things get tough. It's all about strategy. See, what's cool is you pick your path, strike any camp in any order, and the world actually changes depending on what you decide. If you're into card-based RPGs with some real stakes, maybe check it out. Been out for a week and already downloaded over 1 million times on the Play Store alone. If you're into truck simulators, Global Truck Online is your dream come true. Imagine cruising through Brazil's mountains, roads, and endless highways while hauling some pretty much serious cargo. You can pick from a bunch of trucks, take them out however you want, and hit the road either solo or with friends in real-time convoys. The graphics are pretty good as you can see, and the weather system does keep things challenging, so whether you're up for just a challenge or you just like the vibes and the views, this game makes truck driving feel like an adventure. Mad Squad here cranks up the action with a mix of offline and online third-person shooter chaos. This game is a little bit of everything: battle royale, deathmatch, one-on-one showdowns, and even zombie robots. What makes it stand out here though is that each hero in your squad packs a unique ability and weapon, so you're not just running and gunning, you're gonna have to be strategizing to dominate. Anyway, whether you're taking on AI in an offline mode or going head-to-head in real-time multiplayer, the fast response and the slick graphics in the game really keep you in the action. Definitely one of the best games in the list. And last but not least, Ragnarok Idle Adventure Plus is out, and if you're into the Ragnarok online universe, this one's for you. Ragnarok Idle Adventure Plus here keeps that classic Ragnarok feel, but translates it into a more laid-back, idle format. You've got 5 classes to pick from, tons of customization options with over 300 customs, and a pretty deep progression system that keeps things fresh, interesting, even while you're AFK. Per se. So if you're already on board with games like Ragnarok or Region, this might be a nice addition to your lineup. It's definitely got enough going on for both casual players and those who enjoy the old Ragnarok challenge.